The storm came without warning. One moment, the sky was pale orange. The next, it turned black and angry. Wind screamed across the rocky land, throwing dust and small stones in every direction. Tejo pulled his vehicle behind a large rock and waited. He was a medic, not a soldier. He was not built for storms like this. His job was simple. Go to the sensor station, pick up the data drives, come back. That was all. But the planet did not care about his plans. He sat inside the vehicle and listened to the wind howl. The radio was dead. Too much interference from the storm. He was alone, somewhere in the region the Kalari called the Forbidden Zone. They had many rules about this place. Do not stop here. Do not leave your vehicle. Do not make noise. The predators will hear you. Tejo did not fully believe in the Kalari rules. They were a careful species. They made rules for everything. They feared many things that humans did not fear. But still, he stayed inside and waited. After 2 hours, the storm began to calm. The wind grew softer. The dust settled. Tejo opened the door and stepped outside to check the vehicle for damage. That was when he heard it. A sound, weak, high, like a cry, but not human. It came from somewhere deeper in the canyon. Tejo stood very still. He knew he should get back in the vehicle. He knew he should leave. The Kalari had shown him pictures of the creatures that lived here. Vaskril, they called them. Large, fast, deadly. They had claws that could cut through metal, teeth that could break bone, eyes that could see in total darkness. The Kalari said they were monsters. They said no species had ever survived contact with them. They said humans were foolish to even come to this planet, but the sound came again. And this time, Tejo heard something in it that he recognized. Pain. Fear. He walked toward it. The canyon was narrow and dark. The rocks were sharp and cold under his boots. He moved slowly, checking every shadow, listening to every echo. His heart beat hard in his chest. His hands were shaking, but he kept walking. He found it behind a fallen boulder. It was small. Much smaller than he expected. Its body was covered in dark fur, like midnight blue mixed with silver. Its eyes were large and round, glowing faintly in the dim light. It had 4 legs, a long tail, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. But it was not attacking. It was lying on the ground, breathing hard. One of its back legs was torn open. Violet blood pooled beneath it. The creature looked up at Tejo with those glowing eyes, and it made that sound again. That weak, painful cry. Tejo stopped walking. He stood 5 meters away and did not move. The creature watched him. It did not growl. It did not try to run. It was too weak, too hurt. It just looked at him. And in that look, Tejo saw something that surprised him. It was afraid of him. He took a slow breath. He looked at the wound on its leg. It was deep. If the creature did not get help, it would die. Maybe in a few hours. Maybe less. The smart thing to do was walk away. The Kalari would say so. Commander Rovan would say so. Everyone would say so. This was a Vaskril. A predator. A monster. Helping it was not just dangerous, it was against the law. But Tejo was not thinking about the law. He was thinking about the look in the creature's eyes. He was thinking about how small it was. How young. How scared. He knelt down slowly. The creature tensed. A low sound came from its throat. A warning. But it did not attack. Tejo opened his bag. He pulled out his med kit. He had bandages, cleaning solution, surgical thread, and a small needle. It was meant for humans. He did not know if it would work on this creature, but he had to try. He spoke softly. He did not know if the creature could understand him. He did not think it could. But he spoke anyway. Because his voice was calm. And maybe that would help. I am not going to hurt you, he said. I want to help. Please, let me help. The creature watched him. Its breathing was fast. Its body was shaking. But it did not move. Tejo moved closer. One step. Then another. Then another. He knelt beside the creature and looked at the wound. It was worse than he thought. Something had cut deep into the muscle. A trap, maybe, or another predator. He cleaned the wound first. The creature flinched and made a sharp sound, but it did not bite him. He worked quickly, carefully. He used the surgical thread to close the wound, pulling the torn skin together with small, gentle stitches. The whole time, the creature watched him. It did not look away. Not once. When he finished, Tejo sat back and took a deep breath. His hands were covered in violet blood. His heart was still beating fast. But the wound was closed. The bleeding had stopped. He pulled out his water bottle and poured a little into his palm. He held it out to the creature. For a long moment, nothing happened. The creature just stared at him. Then, slowly, it leaned forward and drank from his hand. Tejo smiled. He did not know why. He just did. Above them, the sky was clearing. The storm was gone. But Tejo knew that something else had just begun. Something that would change everything. He looked at the small creature drinking from his palm, and he made a decision. He was not leaving it here to die. The creature was heavier than it looked. Tejo carried it in his arms like a child, feeling the warmth of its body against his chest. It did not fight him. It was too weak, too tired. It just rested its head against his shoulder and breathed slowly. He put it in the back of his vehicle, on a blanket he used for cold nights. The creature curled into a ball and closed its eyes. Tejo watched it for a moment, then started the engine and drove toward the outpost. The sun was setting when he arrived. The sky was painted in shades of red and purple. The outpost was small, just a few buildings surrounded by a tall fence. It was home to 12 people, 8 humans, 4 Kalari. They studied the planet, collected data, and tried to survive. Yuna was waiting for him at the gate. She was a xenobiologist, a scientist who studied alien life. She was smart, careful, and always curious. She was also his closest friend on this planet. "You are late," she said. "The storm was bad. I was worried." "I am fine," Tejo said. He hesitated. "But I need your help." Yuna looked at him. She knew that look on his face. She had seen it before, usually right before he did something foolish. "What did you do?" she asked. He opened the back of the vehicle. Yuna stared. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked at the creature, then at Tejo, then at the creature again. Is that a Vaskril?" she whispered. "Yes, Tejo, that is a Vaskril, a baby Vaskril, in your vehicle. I know. Do you know what they will do to you? Do you know what Commander Rovan will say?" "I know." Yuna covered her face with her hands. She took a deep breath. Then she looked at him again. "Why?" she asked. Tejo looked at the sleeping creature. Its leg was still wrapped in bandages. Its breathing was slow and steady. "It was hurt," he said simply. "It was going to die. I could not just leave it." Yuna was silent for a long moment. Then she shook her head and sighed. "Bring it to the medical bay, quickly, before anyone sees." They moved fast. Tejo carried the creature inside while Yuna checked the hallways. The medical bay was empty. He placed the creature on a table, and Yuna began to examine it. "The stitches are good," she said, sounding surprised. "You did this?" "Yes. With human surgical thread? It was all I had." Yuna touched the creature's fur gently. It was soft, like silk. The creature opened its eyes and looked at her. She pulled her hand back quickly. "It is awake," she said. "It will not hurt you," Tejo said. He moved closer and placed his hand on the creature's head. It made a soft sound and closed its eyes again. Yuna watched this with wide eyes. "This is impossible," she said. "The Kalari say Vaskril cannot be calmed. They say they are pure hunters. No emotion, no connection, just killing." "Maybe the Kalari are wrong," Tejo said. Before Yuna could answer, the door opened. Commander Rovan stood in the doorway. He was tall, even for a Kalari. His skin was pale gray, and his eyes were like black glass. He wore a uniform covered in medals and symbols. He was the leader of this outpost, and his word was law. He looked at the creature on the table. His face did not change, but his voice was like ice. "What is this?" Tejo stood straight. "It is a Vaskril cub, Commander. I found it injured in the canyon. I brought it here for treatment. You brought a Vaskril into my outpost." "Yes, Commander." Rovan walked closer. He looked at the creature with disgust. "Do you know what this thing is? Do you know what its kind has done? They have killed hundreds, thousands, entire colonies. They cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be trained. They are death." "It is a baby," Tejo said. "It was hurt and alone." "It is a monster," Rovan said, "and it must be destroyed. Now." "No." The word hung in the air. Yuna held her breath. Even the creature seemed to sense the tension. It opened its eyes and looked at Rovan with a low growl. Rovan's hand moved to the weapon on his belt. "You dare to refuse me? I will not let you kill it," Tejo said. His voice was calm, but there was steel in it. "It has done nothing wrong. It is just a child. I will take responsibility for it." Rovan stared at him. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Rovan spoke, his voice cold and precise. "You have 24 hours. After that, I will do what must be done, and you will face punishment for this." He turned and walked out. The door closed behind him. Yuna let out a long breath. "Tejo, you just made an enemy of the most powerful person on this planet." Tejo looked at the creature. It was watching him with those large, glowing eyes. He reached out and touched its head gently. "I know," he said, "but I made a promise, and I will keep it." The creature made a soft sound, almost like a purr, and for the first time since he found it, Tejo felt like it understood him. He smiled and whispered, "I will call you Baram. It means wind, because you came to me from the storm." Baram closed its eyes and rested its head against his hand. Outside, the night was dark and full of danger. But in that small room, something new was beginning. Something that no one in the galaxy had ever seen before. A human and a predator, learning to trust each other. 5 days passed. Tejo spent every free moment with Baram. The quarantine wing was small and cold. It had white walls, a metal floor, and a single window that looked out at the empty land beyond the fence. Baram did not seem to mind. It slept most of the time, curled up on the blankets Tejo brought for it. Its leg was healing well. The stitches were holding. Soon, it would be able to walk again. Yuna came every day to check on them. She brought food, medicine, and her notebook. She was writing everything down. Every sound Baram made. Every movement. Every reaction. "This is incredible," she said on the 3rd day. "Look at this." She showed Tejo her notes. There were charts and drawings and numbers. When you are in the room, its heart rate drops. Its breathing slows. It becomes calm. But when anyone else enters, it becomes alert and tense. It growls at the guards. It hisses at the other scientists. But with you, she shook her head. With you, it acts like a pet. "It is not a pet," Tejo said. "It is a friend." Yuna looked at him like he was crazy. Maybe he was. Commander Rovan had extended his deadline 3 times. Each time, he said it was only because Yuna's research was valuable. Each time, he reminded Tejo that the creature would be destroyed eventually. It was only a matter of time. Tejo tried not to think about it. He focused on Baram instead, on teaching it to trust him, on learning its language of growls and purrs and soft sounds. One night, Tejo was so tired that he fell asleep on the floor of the quarantine wing. He had been working double shifts, trying to prove himself useful so Rovan would have less reason to punish him. His body gave out, and he collapsed on the cold metal floor beside Baram's bed. He did not know how long he slept, but he woke up to shouting, The lights were flashing red. An alarm was screaming. And Bahram was standing over him. Tejo sat up quickly. His heart was pounding. What is happening? The door burst open. Commander Rovan stood there with 2 armed guards. Their weapons were raised and pointed at Bahram. The power failed, Rovan said. His voice was tight with anger. Tejo looked at Bahram. The creature was standing between him and the guards. Its fur was raised. Its teeth were showing. A deep, rumbling growl came from its throat, but it was not a hunting growl. Tejo had heard Bahram make many sounds over the past days. He knew the difference. This was not the sound of an animal about to attack. This was the sound of an animal protecting something it loved. Lower your weapons, Tejo said. Rovan laughed. It was a cold, bitter sound. You are giving me orders? While that thing stands ready to kill us all, it is not going to kill anyone. It is protecting me, because it thinks you are a threat. Ada. We are the threat? Rovan's eyes were wide with disbelief. That creature could tear you apart in seconds. And you are telling me we are the threat? Tejo stood up slowly. He moved carefully, keeping his movements smooth and calm. He stepped in front of Bahram and faced the guards. Put your weapons down, he said again. Please. You are scaring it. No one moved. Then Yuna pushed through the door. She looked at the scene and understood immediately. Commander, she said quickly, look at the creature's posture. It is defensive, not aggressive. It is not hunting. It is guarding. There is a difference. Rovan did not look convinced. But something in Yuna's voice made him hesitate. If it wanted to kill the medic, it would have done so while he slept. Yuna continued. The locks were open for over an hour. It had every opportunity. But instead, it stayed beside him. It protected him. Silence filled the room. Rovan stared at Bahram. The creature stared back. Its growl had softened, but it still stood ready to fight. Then Tejo did something unexpected. He turned his back on the guards and knelt beside Bahram. He placed his hands on its face and looked into its eyes. It is okay, he said softly. They are not going to hurt me. You can rest now. Bahram looked at him. Its eyes were bright and intelligent. It seemed to understand. Slowly, the fur on its back flattened. The growl stopped. It leaned forward and pressed its head against Tejo's chest. Rovan watched this in complete silence. One of the guards lowered his weapon. Then the other. This is impossible, Rovan said quietly. This goes against everything we know. Everything we have been taught. Yuna was scribbling in her notebook as fast as she could. It is not impossible, Commander. It is just new. Humans have a long history of bonding with predators on our homeworld. Dogs, cats, horses. We turned wolves into family pets over thousands of years. Maybe we can do it again. Rovan shook his head. Wolves are not Vaskral. Your earth animals are not monsters from the dark. Maybe not, Tejo said without looking up. He was still holding Bahram, stroking its fur gently. But maybe the Vaskral are not monsters either. Maybe they are just animals. Scared and dangerous, yes. But still just animals. And animals can learn. Animals can change. He looked up at Rovan. Just like people can. Rovan said nothing. He stared at the human and the predator for a long moment. Then he turned and walked out of the room. The guards followed him. Yuna let out a breath she had been holding. Tejo, she said weakly, you are either the bravest person I know, or the stupidest. Tejo smiled. Maybe both. Bahram made a soft sound and closed its eyes. It was calm again, safe again, and somewhere in the darkness outside, unseen eyes were watching the outpost with great interest. The pack had found their lost cub. The first warning came at dawn. The sensors around the outpost began to flash red. Movement detected. Large creatures. Multiple signals. Coming from the north, the east, the west. Surrounding them, Commander Rovan stood in the control room, watching the screens with cold eyes. 6 signals. 6 adult Vaskril, a full hunting pack. They are here for the cub, he said. I warned you this would happen. Tejo stood beside Yuna, his heart heavy. He had feared this moment. He had hoped it would not come. But deep down, he knew it was only a matter of time. What do we do? One of the guards asked. His voice was shaking. We prepare for attack, Rovan said. Everyone to defensive positions. Weapons ready. If they breach the fence, we shoot to kill. Tejo shook his head. No, that is the wrong answer. Rovan turned to him slowly. The wrong answer? There are 6 adult Vaskril out there. Each one is capable of killing every person in this outpost. And you say defense is the wrong answer? Read. They are not hunting, Tejo said. Look at the pattern. They are not circling to find weak points. They are not hiding or waiting for darkness. They are just there, watching, waiting. Waiting for what? Tejo took a deep breath. For their child. The room went silent. Yuna stepped forward. Tejo might be right. Vaskril are pack animals. They live in family groups. The cub must belong to this pack. They have been searching for it. Now they have found it. So they will attack to get it back, Rovan said. Or, Tejo said quietly, we could give the cub back to them. Everyone stared at him. Are you insane? Rovan demanded. You want to go outside, into the middle of 6 apex predators, and hand them their cub? They will tear you apart before you take 3 steps. Maybe, Tejo said. Or maybe they will understand. Understand? They are animals. They do not understand anything. Tejo thought about Baram. About the way it looked at him. About the way it curled up beside him at night. About the growl that was not a hunting growl. I think you are wrong, Commander, he said. I think they understand more than we realize. I think they came here not to fight, but to find their family. And I think the only way to end this without blood is to give them what they want. Rovan laughed bitterly. And you will be the one to do this? You will risk your life for a creature you found a week ago? Tejo nodded. Yes. The commander stared at him for a long moment. Something flickered in his dark eyes. Confusion, maybe. Or something close to respect. If you die, Rovan said finally, I will not mourn you. I understand. Tejo walked out of the control room. Yuna followed him. I am coming with you, she said. You do not have to. I know. But someone needs to record this, and someone needs to watch your back. Tejo smiled. Thank you. They went to the quarantine wing together. Baram was awake, standing at the window. It was looking out at the wilderness beyond the fence. It knew. Somehow. It knew its family was out there. Tejo knelt beside it. It is time to go home, he said softly. Baram looked at him. Its eyes were bright and sad at the same time. It made a soft sound and pressed its head against his hand. Tejo felt his heart break, just a little. He picked up Baram and carried it outside. Yuna walked beside him, a small weapon in her hand. She did not plan to use it, but she was not foolish enough to go unarmed. They walked to the main gate. The guards watched them with fear in their eyes. No one tried to stop them. Rovan's voice came over the speaker. The gate is opening. May your gods protect you, human. The gate slid open. Tejo walked out into the open land. The sun was rising, painting the sky in gold and pink. The air was cold and fresh. Everything was quiet. Then he saw them. 6 Vaskril emerged from the tree line. They were huge. Each one was 3 times the size of Baram. Their fur was dark and thick. Their eyes glowing like fire. They moved like shadows. Silent and deadly. The largest one stepped forward. It was the mother. Tejo knew it without knowing how. Something in the way it looked at Baram. Something in the way its eyes softened. Tejo stopped walking. He was 20 meters from the pack. Close enough to see every tooth, every claw. His legs wanted to run. His body screamed at him to flee. But he stayed. He set Baram down gently. The cub looked up at him one last time. It made a soft sound. A goodbye, maybe, or a thank you. Then it turned and limped toward its mother. The pack watched it come. They did not move. They did not make a sound. Bahram reached its mother and pressed against her leg. The mother lowered her head and touched the cub with her nose. A gentle, loving gesture. Then the mother looked at Tejo. She walked toward him. Each step was slow and measured. Yuna raised her weapon, her hand trembling. But Tejo held up his hand to stop her. "Wait," he whispered. The mother stopped in front of him. She was so close he could feel her breath. It was warm and smelled like earth and rain. She lowered her head. Tejo raised his hand, slowly, carefully. He placed it on her nose. For a moment, they stood like that. Human and predator. Two species that should have been enemies. Two beings that chose, in this one moment, to be something else. Then the mother pulled back. She turned and walked toward her pack. Bahram looked back at Tejo one more time. Then the pack vanished into the forest, silent as ghosts. Tejo stood alone in the morning light. His heart was pounding. His eyes were wet with tears he did not understand. Behind him, Yuna was laughing and crying at the same time. "You did it," she said. "You actually did it." Tejo watched the trees where the pack had disappeared. He smiled. "No," he said softly. "We did it. All of us. Together." Inside the outpost, Commander Rovan stood at the window, watching everything. His face showed nothing, but his hands were shaking. Commander Rovan sat in his office for 3 days. He did not eat. He barely slept. He just sat there, staring at his computer screen, trying to write his report. He had written reports for 20 years. He had described battles, discoveries, disasters, and deaths. He had never struggled like this, because he had never had to describe the impossible. A human had walked up to a pack of Vaskril. He had returned their cub, and he had lived. Not just lived, but made contact. Peaceful contact. With creatures that had killed thousands across the galaxy. How do you put that in a report? In the end, Rovan wrote the truth. Every detail, every moment. He attached Yuna's research notes. He attached the sensor data. He attached the video recordings from the gate camera. He sent it to the Galactic Council and waited. The response came within hours. They did not believe him. They thought it was a trick, a mistake, or a lie. Rovan spent days in video meetings, answering questions, defending his account. Officials from 12 different species demanded explanations he could not give. How did the humans survive? I do not know. How did he communicate with the creatures? I do not know. Is this some kind of human technology? A weapon? A mind control device? No, he just talked to it. He was kind to it. That is all. The meetings ended without resolution. The official classification of Vaskril remained unchanged. Extinction class predators. Kill on sight. Do not attempt contact. But something had changed. Rovan could feel it. The way the other species looked at him when he mentioned humans. The way they whispered among themselves. There was something new in their eyes. Fear, yes. There had always been fear. Humans were strange and unpredictable. They did things that made no sense to other species, but now there was something else. Something that looked almost like wonder. Yuna published her research 2 months later. She called it First Contact Behaviors in Human-Predator Interactions. It was controversial. Many scientists rejected it outright. They said her data was flawed, her conclusions impossible. But some listened. Some read her paper and began to think differently. They started asking questions that had never been asked before. Why did humans keep pets? Why did they risk their lives for animals that could hurt them? Why did they see companions where others saw threats? Yuna did not have all the answers, but she had a theory. Humans evolved alongside predators, she wrote. They learned that some threats could become allies. They developed empathy as a survival tool. While other species learned to run from danger, humans learned to understand it, to connect with it, to change it. It was a radical idea. It made many species uncomfortable. but it also made them curious. 6 months after the incident, the outpost on Varus 4 received new visitors. Scientists from across the galaxy came to study the humans. They watched Tejo work. They recorded his interactions with the local wildlife. They asked him endless questions. "What were you thinking when you approached the pack?" "I was thinking they looked like a family searching for their child." "Were you not afraid?" "I was terrified. But I was more afraid of what would happen if I did nothing." "Why did you help the cub in the first place?" Tejo thought about this for a long time. "Because it was hurt," he said finally. "And I could help." "That is reason enough." The scientists did not understand, but they wrote it down anyway. 1 year after the incident, Tejo was working at the remote sensor station alone. It was a quiet day. The sky was clear, and the wind was gentle. He was checking equipment, replacing batteries, doing the simple work that kept the outpost running. Then he heard a sound. It was familiar. A soft call, like a greeting. He turned around slowly. Bahram stood on the ridge above him, but it was not the small, injured cub he had found in the canyon. It was nearly full-grown now. Its fur was thick and beautiful, shining in the sunlight. Its eyes were bright and intelligent, and it was carrying something in its mouth. Bahram walked down the ridge toward him. Tejo did not move. He just watched. His heart full of emotions he could not name. The creature stopped in front of him. It dropped the thing it was carrying at his feet. It was a fresh kill. A small animal from the wilderness. An offering. Tejo looked at it, then looked at Bahram. The creature met his eyes without fear, without aggression. It just waited. Slowly, Tejo reached out and placed his hand on Bahram's head. The fur was soft and warm. Bahram made a sound, low and content, almost like a purr. "Thank you," Tejo said quietly. "I missed you too." They stood together for a long moment. Human and predator. Two beings that the galaxy said could never be friends. Then Bahram turned and walked back toward the ridge. At the top, it stopped and looked back one more time. Then it disappeared into the wilderness. Tejo smiled and wiped his eyes. Far away, in a great hall on a distant planet, the Galactic Council was meeting. Representatives from 100 species sat in a circle, discussing the future of interstellar relations. A Kelari delegate was speaking. He was trying to explain what had happened on Varus 4. He was trying to describe what the human had done. "The predator did not kill him," he said. "It recognized him. It remembered him. It brought him a gift." The other delegates murmured in confusion. "Why?" Someone asked. "Why would a predator do this?" The Kelari delegate shook his head. "I do not know. The humans say it is because they showed it kindness. They say that even the most dangerous creatures can learn to trust." Silence fell over the hall. Then a delegate from a species that had never spoken before raised a limb. It was small, with fragile wings and large, nervous eyes. A species that had always been prey. "Perhaps," it said slowly, "we should learn from the humans. Perhaps there are better ways to survive than running. Perhaps kindness is not weakness." The hall was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly, other delegates began to nod. Back on Varus 4, Tejo knew nothing of this. He was just a medic on a small outpost, doing his job, living his life. But somewhere in the galaxy, because of what he had done, species that had been afraid for centuries were beginning to hope. All because a human saw an injured cub and chose to kneel. All because he chose kindness over fear. And that made all the difference.